Your cat sees a single drop of water on the bathroom floor and reacts like it just witnessed something truly horrifying. But here's the thing. This reaction isn't universal, it isn't random, and it definitely isn't just a cute quirk. There's a deep evolutionary story behind why most cats avoid water, and there are also very real exceptions that completely break the stereotype. Today, we're diving into the real science behind why cats mostly hate water, why some cats genuinely love it, and what you can do if you ever need to bathe a water-averse cat without turning it into a battle. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. The idea that cats hate water is one of the most widely repeated pieces of common knowledge about felines. And like a lot of common knowledge, it's rooted in truth, but it's also more nuanced than most people realize. In this video, we're going to explore the evolutionary and genetic reasons behind this behavior, starting with the desert ancestry of the modern domestic cat. We'll look at how fur and insulation play a role, how water disrupts a cat's incredibly sensitive senses, and why the loss of control that comes with being wet triggers a deep survival instinct. We'll also cover several cat breeds and individual cats who genuinely love water, and how early exposure during kittenhood shapes adult attitudes toward water. Finally, we'll wrap up with practical tips for making bath time less stressful. If you enjoy deep dives into cat behavior and psychology, hit subscribe, because we post videos like this regularly. Understanding the why behind this behavior isn't just interesting trivia. It can genuinely change how you approach necessary situations like bathing or grooming. Let's get into it. To understand why most cats have an aversion to water, we need to go back to the origins of the domestic cat itself. The domestic cat is believed to have descended primarily from the African wildcat. This wildcat ancestor originated in the arid, desert-like regions of the Middle East and North Africa, environments that were extremely dry, with minimal exposure to large bodies of water. Unlike many other mammals that evolved alongside rivers or lakes, the African wildcat's environment simply didn't require regular interaction with water beyond drinking. Cats evolved as solitary desert hunters, relying on stealth and short bursts of speed. Their hunting style never required them to enter water, and natural selection never favored traits that would make them more comfortable in aquatic environments. There's no evolutionary reward baked into their genetics for tolerating water, because their ancestors never needed it to survive. It's also worth noting that this desert ancestry connects to several other well-known cat behaviors. Their ability to concentrate urine to conserve water, their preference for low water intake, and even their tendency to prefer moving water sources, like a dripping faucet, are all linked back to this same arid heritage. It's also worth comparing this to the domestication timeline. Cats were domesticated relatively recently, beginning around 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, as wild cats were drawn toward early agricultural settlements by rodents. Unlike dogs, who were often bred for water-based work, cats were valued primarily for pest control and companionship, neither of which required any water tolerance. This trait has remained remarkably stable because there has never been significant evolutionary pressure pushing cats toward water tolerance. Beyond evolutionary history, there's a very practical, physical reason cats tend to avoid water: their fur. Most domestic cats have a double coat. When a cat's fur becomes thoroughly wet, it loses much of its natural insulating properties. Dry fur traps small pockets of air close to the skin. Once soaked, the fur mats down against the skin, significantly reducing its ability to keep the cat warm. Cats, unlike humans, don't have an efficient way to quickly dry themselves off, and like dogs, who have a rapid shake reflex, cats don't have this same mechanism, meaning wet fur clings to their body for much longer. There's also the simple issue of weight. Wet fur becomes significantly heavier, which can restrict a cat's natural agility. For an animal whose survival strategy relies heavily on speed and quick reflexes, this represents a real disadvantage. It's also worth noting that different breeds have varying coat types. Long-haired breeds tend to experience a more dramatic increase in weight and matting when wet, compared to short-haired breeds. Cats rely heavily on their extraordinarily sensitive senses, and water significantly disrupts several of these senses simultaneously. Let's start with hearing. When water gets into a cat's ears, it can muffle sound and create an uncomfortable pressure sensation. This alone can be deeply unsettling. Next, there's smell. Water, especially with scented soap, can temporarily overwhelm or mask a cat's ability to smell effectively. Then there's the physical sensation of being wet itself, fundamentally unfamiliar and uncomfortable. There's also the sound of water itself. Running water or splashing can be unpredictable and startling. There's also a lesser-discussed factor, whisker sensitivity. Whiskers help cats detect subtle air currents. When whiskers become wet, their sensitivity can be temporarily dulled. When you combine impaired hearing, disrupted smell, an unfamiliar sensation, and unpredictable sound, you get a genuinely overwhelming sensory experience. This brings us to what many behaviorists consider the deepest reason behind water aversion: a loss of control. Cats place an enormous amount of value on maintaining control over their environment. Predictability and quick reflexes are core survival tools. Water fundamentally disrupts this sense of control. On solid ground, a cat can leap or dart away almost instantaneously. In water, this ability is severely compromised. This is also why you'll see a distinct difference in a cat's reaction to water they encounter voluntarily, like playfully dipping a paw, compared to being fully submerged against their will. A cat who appears terrified of a bath may simultaneously enjoy dipping a paw into a water bowl. These behaviors aren't contradictory once you understand the core issue often isn't water itself, but the combination of water with forced confinement and loss of control. Now, despite everything we've covered, water aversion is not a universal trait among all cats. The Turkish Van is perhaps the most famous water-loving breed, sometimes nicknamed the swimming cat. Bengal cats are frequently reported by owners to show strong curiosity toward water play. Maine Coon cats are also commonly noted for having a higher tolerance and even enjoyment of water, thanks to their semi-water-resistant coat. Abyssinian cats often investigate dripping taps with notable interest rather than avoidance. Beyond specific breeds, individual personality plays a significant role too. Fishing cats, a wild species, have partially webbed feet specifically evolved for swimming, proving that water adaptation absolutely can evolve within the cat family when conditions favor it. Norwegian forest cats and savanna cats also tend to show above-average water tolerance. Beyond genetics, one of the most significant factors is early life exposure during kittenhood. Kittens go through a critical socialization period, generally between 2 and 7 weeks. Kittens gently, positively exposed to water during this window often develop significantly higher water tolerance as adults. Negative early experiences can have the opposite effect, reinforcing a natural aversion. For adult cats, this process typically needs to move at a much slower pace, starting with something as simple as investigating an empty, dry tub. Rushing this process tends to reinforce fear rather than reduce it. If you do need to bathe your cat, here are several practical strategies. First, minimize the frequency of full baths whenever possible. Second, introduce water gradually rather than all at once. Third, use lukewarm water, never cold water. Fourth, minimize water pressure and avoid direct spraying near the face and ears. Fifth, use non-slip surfaces in the bathing area. Sixth, keep bathing sessions as short as possible. Seventh, use positive reinforcement throughout and immediately after. Eighth, consider alternatives to full baths, like grooming wipes. Ninth, dry your cat thoroughly and quickly afterwards. 10th, if a cat shows extreme distress, consult with a veterinarian or professional groomer. Choosing the right time of day matters too. Attempting to bathe a cat when they're already on edge can amplify stress. Enlisting a second person to help can also make the process considerably smoother. Every cat is different. Pay close attention to your individual cat's specific stress signals. So, to summarize, the widespread belief that cats hate water isn't just a random quirk. It's rooted in genuine evolutionary history, compounded by fur insulation issues, intensified by sensory disruption, and deeply connected to a cat's need for control. At the same time, this aversion isn't universal. Certain breeds and early experiences can shift a cat's relationship with water significantly. If this video helped you understand your cat a little better, let me know in the comments. Does your cat avoid water entirely, or are you one of the lucky owners with a water-loving exception? And if you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe for more videos on cat behavior and psychology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.